Good afternoon and welcome back to My Harlem Portrait, the show that wants to shed a light on the fundamental importance that African Americans have given to the building of this country. We are talking about Black excellence in everything and today, in every field. And today we are going to talk to Dr. Jocelynne Rainey, President and CEO of Getting Out and Staying Out, also called GOSO, and Sonya Shields, Chief Operating Officer of GOSO. Welcome to My Harlem Portraits, beautiful ladies.
Thank you for having us, Maria. We're so happy to be here.
It's wonderful to have ladies who do such an incredible work for the community. This is really a mission. So let's talk about this. For Dr. Rainey, I know that before this, you were Chief Administrative Officer and Executive Vice President of a Brooklyn Navy Yard Development Corporation, and that being, having that mission gave you an idea and has influenced your creating GOSO. So let me know what was so influential for you.
I so appreciate the way you said that. You're absolutely right. You know, my work at the Navy Yard did influence a lot of why I wanted to run an organization like GOSO. You know, I had the privilege of, for many years, working in the nonprofit and for-profit industry in human resources, and always struggled with, you know, when people of color, especially Black people, were unable to get opportunities because, you know what, we just didn't have the exposure or didn't have the skills regarding interviewing. And I put myself in the same bucket as everyone else. You know, I just didn't have the same networks. And so, you know, I've always been very passionate about how do we get people of color into the labor market? How do we get them to work? So at the Navy Yard, I oversaw workforce development along with other areas. And while overseeing workforce development, where we were connecting the community to work, I realized that this is my passion, right? Like, this is my passion. How do I help people to become part of the thriving at that time, economic economy that was happening in New York City? So realizing that that's a real piece of equity, how we close this racial wealth gap is by connecting people to work. And, you know, I did this for 2 years. I saw a lot of success. I'm sorry, I did this for 8 years. Saw a lot of success while I was there. We went from placing about 100 people into jobs to placing 500 people into jobs. Wow. And then when I decided that I wanted to run a nonprofit, I wanted to run a nonprofit that was focused on equity for people of color. So GOSO is an organization that was founded over close to 20 years ago. And they serve young men who are 16 to 24, who have had some interaction with the criminal justice system. Many have been incarcerated or detained in our jails and our prisons. And part of the work is also connecting them to employment and education while making sure we're taking care of their emotional well-being. Because, you know, people of color, we live in communities where there's a lot of trauma. And then you add to that the trauma of being incarcerated. So, you know, the Navy Yard really sparked my desire and just really my understanding of what I can do around helping people to get jobs and keep jobs and helping people who look like me. So that's really where the Navy Yard was kind of my catapult into this work.
What you're doing now, it is a fundamental link, missing link in our society, especially here in the States. This help for, especially for young people and young people of color, from being incarcerated to rebuilding a life. Also because we know that the rate of incarceration for Black and brown young men and women is much higher than that of white people committing the same type of, not even crime, misdemeanors.
Misdemeanors. If you think about it, in New York City, Black people are 8 times more likely to be stopped by the police than white people. And they're 5 times more likely to be incarcerated, or I'm sorry, to be arrested. And also incarcerated. So when you think about those numbers, organizations like GOSO, we're just evening the playing field. The young men that we serve are just so much more likely to be in prison just because of the over policing that happens in our community. So you're absolutely right, Maria.
I've seen it. Since I moved here for good in 2013. I'm living in Harlem, and I see what's going on. And then, I mean, everybody sees now everywhere. The whole world now has seen it. Yeah. Sonya, what brought you to GOSO, and what is your main mission in GOSO?
I feel like I've come full circle. I've been with a lot of different nonprofits going back over 25 years as a nonprofit executive, primarily in development, marketing and communications, all social justice organizations. So every organization that I've ever worked for was always about a cause. And in the past 2 years, after working for a really big organization, I worked for Brooklyn Community Services. I was the chief officer for external relations and advancement there. Did a lot of amazing things there. An organization that serves a lot of Black and brown people in Brooklyn. I was sort of taking my time trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I was literally just consulting and was really busy consulting. And Jocelynne and I have a mutual friend who got in contact with me and said, I think GOSO needs you. They need your help with the gala. They have a big gala coming up, and they need someone to come in and really help them take this to the finish line. And I, jumped right in. Jocelynne and I hit it off right away. I loved what she was saying. I'm someone who I've always considered myself to be a social justice activist. And this, the cycle of incarceration was very much top of mind. The barriers that face Black and brown men are always top of mind. I've been here in Brooklyn for over 20 years. I've lived in the Bed-Stuy neighborhood for about 10 years now, but a number of different neighborhoods, but in Bed-Stuy for 10. And I see, the over policing as well. And, certainly have had, people in my family, be touched by incarceration for ridiculous reasons as well. And I really, was just doing the consulting work when Jocelynne said, we'd like to keep you here, and I was pretty much like, kind of sort of at that place where I was like, kind of done with doing what I've done for 20 years, but still wanted to be involved with building the visibility and bringing money in, but not sort of on the front line of it anymore, and kind of wanted to pivot into a position of a COO when it felt like the right fit. And this just felt right. I really feel like I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm seeing how all of my experience is really coming together in a way that I think is perfect for GOSO at this time. So, I'm supervising the program team, not the full program team, but the clinical team and the team that provides a lot of the activities and engagement for the participants. And then I'm overseeing also development and communications. And I just wish more nonprofits did this, to be honest with you, because I have worked so closely with program teams over the years because I've had to raise money. I have done a lot of my own sort of community education and engagement. And so to be able to oversee those teams is just making perfect sense, because we need to have more of a culture of philanthropy within organizations where everyone sees their role in fundraising, that everyone understands the bigger picture, like, why are we actually here? How are you an ambassador in this work? How are you showing up in terms of educating the people within your network about the work and ways to engage around the work? So I can see people making the shift, away from thinking, well, this is my job, this is what I'm supposed to do, and DevoComs is what we call development communications, they're supposed to do that part. Like, no, we all have a role in educating the community around this, even when it's uncomfortable. I'm proud that GOSO is calling out racism. We've changed the vision and the mission statement. We are talking about race now. We're saying that is the core of the issue. That's the root of the problem. And I'm really proud to be aligned with an organization that feels very comfortable about doing that, because that's where it really all starts. This is about racism. And, until we start to talk about that, we're going to be at the same place, not making the kind of dents around this really inhumane system that should have been dismantled many, many years ago.
Absolutely, it is about racism. I can tell you something. I don't know anybody in Italy who has ever been incarcerated among my friends. Nobody, okay? I know a few people here, and they are the same type of friends. It's not a difference. They're the same type of people. I know there and I know here, because that's the type of people I have around me. People are engaged, people are politically engaged, people who want to change things and so on. So for me, this is very clear. They are not better than the people I know here, but here I know quite a few who have been incarcerated for no reason. So I see it every day that this is actually what it is happening, and there is no denying it. And fortunately now the whole world has seen it. Since last year, since George Floyd, the horrible thing, the world has finally seen what has been happening always. Now the world knows, and this is maybe one of the positive things of a pandemic, was that people were home, they were watching their TV, they paid attention to what was happening, and they had the time to follow it because they were not engaged in their daily activities. So, Dr. Rainey, give me a little bit of data, because GOSO has done some incredible stuff. I mean, the data that I read are amazing. So your rate of success is very important. Let our viewer know about that, please.
I appreciate that you asked about the data, because I think there's no story without data. Like, we could do all the good work that we want and tell a story all we want, unless we're telling, how we're making impact through numbers, we're not really telling our story. So GOSO, our participants, even 2 years after they leave the program, enjoy a 15% recidivism rate, while the national average is around 67%.
Wow.
So, it costs almost $300,000 to house someone in a prison or in a jail. But when they come to GOSO, it's somewhere around $9,000, and they're not going back to prison. So we're really, really proud of that. For those participants that have participated in our high school equivalency program that is run by the DOE. So, I want to give this administration a little bit of credit around, the work that we do, because we get funding from the city as well as many funders and private donors. So the program, the high school equivalency program, those participants, even 2 years after leaving the program, even if they didn't get their high school equivalency program, their recidivism rate goes to 8%. So just being engaged in education, helps them to not recidivize. So the support between the DOE and our social workers really helps them to find that stability, that helps them to find, to meet their goals, that keeps them from going back to be recidivizing, going back to jail or going back to prison. So our numbers are amazing. Our participants are primarily Black and Latinx. 90% of our participants fit that criteria. So we are definitely impacting the communities that we care about, that we're talking about, the communities that need to be able to be stabilized so they can enjoy the fruits of this great country that we live in. And we're also enjoying an employment rate of over 60% of our participants are in internships, maintain those internships, and then those internships turn to real jobs. And we're also placing participants in real jobs, and all the while working with our social workers, who are amazing. The majority of our staff are social workers, so they're there to work with our participants on their emotional well-being, so they can be successful in all the other areas of their lives that we help to support at GOSO.
This is really amazing results, because I've seen it's very impressive. I'm reading some other data. 86% stay out of prison or jail. 69% of participants placed in subsidized GOSO works internship, and they achieve full-time employment upon completion, and 71% are engaged in work and or school. according to you, what is the reason of your success?
Well, I think the reason of our success is that, even from GOSO's beginning, it was focused on meeting our participants where they are, right? And that means both literally and figuratively. So the organization was founded by the founder going into Rikers Island and meeting with the young men in the high school that's located there, talking to them, getting to know them, and then being there for them when they returned home. And also, we continued that throughout our years and up until the pandemic. Someone was at Rikers Island every single week, working with participants in the dorms where they are. So we meet them where they are first. Literally, we're there, we're in the jails, we're meeting them there, but also figuratively, like we are there to say, okay, where are you at? What do you need? If they need housing stability, if they need Metro cards, we supply Metro cards, we supply food, we supply clothing, pillows and non-perishable foods if they're living in a shelter. So we're really trying to make sure that we're there for the whole person so that, they can have success when they go to work, when they go to school. Any area where you're unstable, you're not going to be able to be stable in other areas. And we want to be able to bring that stability. And I think the other piece is the team that we hire. So, being a woman, being a Black woman, being the mother of 2 sons who are the same age as the young men that I serve was one of the reasons why I thought this was so important, right? Like I want to make sure that this world is right and shape for my children. And also seeing that, my children have been, stopped by the police and understanding like this is a reality for our community. What I wanted to do this work, but then in doing this work, I needed to pick people who are equally passionate about this work. And that's one of the reasons why I asked Sonya to join our team, because her passion around this work is evident. We have social workers that care deeply about our participants. We have a workforce development team that has been doing this work for a really long time. And I'm particularly proud of our Stand Against Harlem, our Stand Against Violence East Harlem team, SAVE, that's in the community where you live, where GOSO is, and they're meeting with community members where they are. They're credible messengers. They've been in the same position as the young people that we serve and the young people that they meet, and people trust them because they know what they're dealing with, they know what they're going through. So I think that that's what made GOSO successful, is that, we're working at the core of the issue, not just at a really high level. So we're not just placing people into jobs. We're not just sending them to school. We're also providing therapy for them on site. And, if you come to our office, you'll see our participants when we still were able to have them in the office all the time, cooking with the Instapot. You'll see them, bantering with each other. And there's this safe community that GOSO has created. And I have been able to continue, but I want to make sure to say that this was created long before I came on board.
Wonderful. And I've read that there is this GOSO approach, Sonya, and it's 3 E's: education, employment, and emotional well-being.
Yeah, the 3 E's. It's emotional well-being, education, and employment. And that's really the GOSO model. So when someone comes in to the program, they come in as like a rising participant and they go through a series of workshops and orientation. And then they are, through their conversations with our social worker, then they are determining which track they want to be on. So there might be a foundation track, the employment track, or the education track. And the foundation track is really just about, the basic needs. I mean, Jocelynne is very passionate about this and really started bringing this up in some other interviews recently about just the issue around housing, how, a lot of young men come out and re-enter and they have insecure housing. So we provide housing and benefits. So there's a whole piece around that, and food security as well. And like to Jocelynne's point, it's very difficult for a young man to get out and be able to get to a job interview and not have a Metro card to get to the job interview, or not have the right types of clothing, a suit and tie and shoes to do a job interview, or not be able to have a haircut to do a job interview. So all of those things are a part of foundation support, along with mental health services as well. And then, you know, if they go on the education and employment track, there's a trajectory and a way in which we measure their success along the way, until they get to the outcome that they want to reach. And I do think that, you know, the only thing else that I could sort of say that Jocelynne didn't say is that I do believe that a lot of it does have to do with the trust and the fact that, you know, there's a lot of isolation, you know, when you have been touched by incarceration, there's a lot of shame. There's, you know, the stigma that they have to deal with when they come out and they're trying to get back on their feet. Stigma with even in their own families, within their own community. When one person within the family is touched by incarceration, it touches the entire family. So there's a lot of safety, I think, that happens through our model where they feel like there's no judgment, you know, there's a no judgment zone. They feel that the folks that are on our team are, you know, family and people that they can really trust, and they build a rapport with us. And everyone is just very much committed to their success and to their outcome.
Thank you.
In the program.
Jocelynne, we only have a couple of minutes left. Tell me about the various programs, those that you consider most important.
I think that, again, I want to say that our SAVE program is really important. I want to uplift that more because it's really important to work with people before they're incarcerated, right? And to be in the community. So to have our Cure Violence team in the community, meeting young people and working with them, those that are still in high school, and being there as guidance. You know, we have space in our SAVE space for them to do recreation as well, and just working with parents to work with young people so that they don't end up in the criminal justice system. Also, I think
with their families also.
We work very closely. So, you know, the SAVE team, the Cure Violence team, they're from the Johnson and Jefferson houses and the Wagner houses where we serve. They know those people, and it's really important for us to get people who from that community who are our employees who are doing that work, right? Because it's really important that they, you know, I'll have my staff say things like, "Oh yeah, I know his father." Or I know his grandmother, and be able to talk to them and really help to bring that level of stability and give them someplace else to stay. So I just want to kind of lift that up because we don't talk as much about that work as we talk about the other work. The other piece, I think, is our social work model. We're one of the only reentry groups that primarily have social workers in place who are doing the majority of the work. So, you know, we have social workers that are used to dealing with young people with trauma. Many of them, this was their first job. They started with us as interns. And as Sonya highlighted, they just feel so passionate, and it really feels like family, and the participants trust them. The things that the participants tell them are things that I don't think they would tell anyone else. And I think it's because, you know, they didn't meet them here. They met many of them while they were at Rikers, right? And so there's that real intimacy. And then, you know, what's really near and dear to me, and the reason why I took this job, is our workforce development program. You know, connecting people to work is how you close the income gap, the wealth gap between Blacks and whites, is by, you know, you have to get people to work. And I think that that's the work that I'm very, very passionate about. Our workforce development team does job readiness training. We work on things like, you know, their social skills and helping them to find jobs, and also that connection to internships, where we have businesses that we consider our partners that take on our participants as interns, and that's part of the job readiness. So yeah, I think that those programs are the most significant, but there's so many other supportive programs that we have at GOSO that make sure that they're successful in their employment and education goals as well.
That's very, very, very important what you're saying here. Let's end this conversation by telling people how they can help, and tell us a little bit more about this annual fundraiser for which you started, Sonya. And is it going to happen this year?
Oh,
I'm gonna, I'm sorry. I'm gonna just start by saying where you can reach us. So GOSO is at gosonyc.org. We have volunteer opportunities. Those volunteer opportunities could be one-offs, just coming in and working with our participants on their resumes or their interview skills. And then we also, of course, we're always looking for donors. There's so many different ways to participate in GOSO. So you just won't know unless you reach out to us. So we hope that anyone watching here would think about reaching out to us. And and I would love for Sonya to talk a little bit about our annual fundraiser. I think she has some great plans for this year. She's ready to pivot one way or the other, but also some of the other things that are going on around fundraising for GOSO.
Sure. So first of all, you can follow us on all of social media platforms. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn under Getting Out, Staying Out, GOSO. So you can definitely find us there. Very active every week. So you will be plugged in, I should say, to whatever's going on. So please follow us on digital platforms and also join our email list. You can go to the website again, that's GOSO. nyc.org, and you can follow us that way as well, and by subscribing to our email. The gala will happen next October. We are, like many nonprofit organizations, it's kind of a wait and see game whether we're going to be in person or virtual or some kind of hybrid gala, but it's the GOSO Gala. It will be another, regardless, inspiring event. The last one was virtual. It was amazing. We will have honorees. We will have, a way to really engage around our participants because they are always, the main focus of our event each year. And we probably will have some kind of special guest speaker or host for the evening as well. But it is our biggest fundraiser every year. Our goal is to raise $700,000. So yeah, it's to raise $700,000. And there are other things going on, like Jocelynne said. I mean, we have volunteer engagement. We are tomorrow launching a wonderful program called Emerging Leaders, where we have a former participant, Vidal Guzman, who is going to be presenting to a cohort of 8 of our participants in the program. So that's launching tomorrow. And it's a series that will go on for 4 months about them becoming credible messengers and engaging around justice transformation and being a part of, being an advocate, and being really involved with criminal justice reform. So that's just like one program. We're launching a speaker series, which we're going to be calling GOSO Talks, that I'm really excited about. And so that's going to be an opportunity for people to speak about whether it's the trajectory of their career, whether it's people who are inspirational speakers, people that just have some kind of resources or information that they want to share with participants. It might even be panel conversations as well. So we are building out a lot of different program activities and volunteer engagement. And if you follow us on social media, you'll be able to be plugged in, as I said, with all that's going on and how you can get involved.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this very, very interesting conversation. Thank you for the work you do, because it's fundamental for the young people to have a place to go, a place that will help them reconnect with society. We don't want anymore that this situation continues. We know that prisons here are a business, a big business, because the more prisoners they have, the more money they get, the owners, the private owners of these prisons. So this is absolutely unacceptable. So thank you again for this amazing work you're doing, Dr. Jocelynne Rainey. Thank you for having built this. And Sonya Shields, thank you also for all your work. And I'm very happy that we met. Thank you to Raymond, because he's always introducing me to amazing people.
He's wonderful. Thank you to Raymond.
Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you, Maria. Take care.
Nice meeting you, and we'll see you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.